Hello. 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 Good morning. Good afternoon. Unmute. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, we are still branding you the prodigal son. Welcome back. Yeah, but the camera, my camera today is not really, like, it's acting up. I don't know why, but so we might, it's not really very clear today. Yeah, I was trying it, but it's not clear. You see? I don't know. I'll try to fix it. So, um,
But the audio is clear, which is important.
yeah, the audio is clear, so I think we can proceed.
Yes, we can.
So how have you been? How is everything on the ground,
Uh, everything in Kenya is interesting. Political, we are in full campaign mode and we are in 2026.
Oh, wonderful. So can we introduce the program so that we just begin in earnest?
Yes, we can.
So for our viewers, we want to welcome all of you wherever you are listening from. We are with Mr. City, and we are continuing to dissect some of the political developments that align to the topics that we've been discussing for the last few weeks. And we are continuing on the same trajectory with the topic today that is mirroring on the politics in Kenya and the role of the electoral system. And I think, Mr. City, I'll give you the chance to throw some old adage because we're under the tree. This program is a very, important program that focuses on interaction and also sharing some of the practical aspects of what the country is going through in all facets of life. So welcome, Mr. City, and take us through.
Thank you. Let me just, I want to reference a proverb from the Republic of Zambia, an interesting proverb that I came across, and it speaks volumes about uh, perhaps the manner in which many people conduct their business in politics and in everyday life. The proverb goes as follows: a man who relies on the strength of his friend is not wise.
Great. So you want me to take it?
Yes, I'd like you to tell me what you think about it.
Yes. So I think what comes to mind from that, adage is that relying on a friend means you are gonna be a victim of all the circumstances, both good luck and bad luck. Because what befalls friends are both good and bad luck. So it creates the sense of dependency, but it also creates some unwarranted loyalty that is unquestionable. So if I relate it to
Yes,
the day-to-day occurrences, a society that does not set its own priorities and rely on the whims of the feedback of the people or the noises of the crowd is a society that is living on a constant change process. That's how I look at it.
yes, indeed. One of the beautiful things about Proverbs is just the diversity of interpretations that you can give it. And I sometimes argue that you cannot possibly be wrong with an interpretation because what you are in essence stating is how you respond and how you relate to the program. And that is almost impossible to fault.
Mm.
We wanted to look today at party politics in Kenya and the role it has in the electoral system. I don't know. When you look at the Kenyan party politics and you compare it to the party politics of the United States where you are, what are some of the similarities and differences that you see, Dr.
Thank you so much. Some of the similarities is that, parties are meant to be run through party organs and, hierarchies. So for that aspect, there's similarity. Parties are supposed to be anchored on manifestos and also, political ideologies that forms their individual party identities. That is from their name to their operational framework. And in terms of that, there's similarity. However, in terms of the operationalization, in terms of the continuity, there's a clear distinction between the parties in the global platform of in the US as opposed to the developing countries. The reason being the funding, the financing of the parties within the US, structures is totally different. The funding is anchored on a continuous basis, so they don't have to rely on the executive. They actually run in an autonomous manner. Okay, so there's some level of autonomy. In terms of fundraising, they source their fund predominantly on, on membership, contributions, but also on the public and institutional contribution, where there are also checks and balances, in terms of filing of returns. And the other distinction that is very, very critical, having reigned in the past, is that the accountability of finances within the party, the electioneering process rests with the candidates, rests with the people who are running for those particular positions. So, for example, each candidate must have a treasurer who runs the finances, and all the finances must be disclosed. So there must be full disclosure of where you've gotten the funds, and there must also be accountability in terms of filing of returns that is done on a very clear timeline. So because of that, it gives that individual responsibility that goes beyond the party, functionary. So to that extent, there's a distinction, So those are the key areas that I think, and I think the other thing, they're limited briefcase, running parties at the global platform is very expensive. So you might not have a lot of briefcase parties, because the stringent, the procedure for registration, procedure for operation, procedure for membership is so stringent that, you can't just walk into the registrar and just register party, for purposes of political expediency. So those are the clear distinctions that I think are very, very important in the key highlight. Over to you.
Well, thank you. In this country, we begin by something that was created in the early part of the middle part of the century. That is the Political Parties Act. Now, the Political Parties Act is like the framework within which political parties can actually be understood in terms of how they are formed, in terms of what they're supposed to do, what is required before political party is registered. I'll give an example. With the 2010 Constitution, it is required that for somebody to actually register a political party, what they call a national political party, for instance, you must have a presence in something like 26 counties out of 47. You must have functioning, not just presence, a functioning office with people in it. And you must also show evidence of having paid for the space in which you work in and a contract for that space, meaning it isn't something that is going to exist for a month and then the following month it's gone. And when you've met some of these conditions, you're given what you call a provisional license. But after the provisional license, then you go through an entirely long process. And these processes can take up to even 3 years, where you are vetted and they look into whether it is the things that are required as meeting the bare minimum for registration are met, things like a constitution, whatever, if you are in a coalition government with others, the deed and the contract for that coalition, meeting the requirements of the office of the registrar of political parties. And it's after all these things have been done and over a period of time that you then can get licensed and you can be called a national political party. But the strange thing about the way we go about our business is that we have a term that doesn't actually quite exist in law. It's called a party leader. every political party has a party leader. Essentially, this is the person who is at the helm of the party. But the functions of the head of the political party is as though this head of the political party or is somebody who actually owns the party. Now, I'm not being careful with my words here. I'm stating it as I see it. A party leader often acts as the owner of the party, meaning you will have party officials, you'll have even deputy party officials, you will have a treasurer, you will have a secretary general, organizing secretary, treasurer, all these things. But the person who has a final say at any given moment in time is the party leader. And that's one. Secondly, our political parties all have memorandums of understanding. If they have associations with other people, they also have a constitution. But the thing that distinguishes them from the West is that our political parties are by and large regionalized. And when I say regionalized, it means they are formed along ethnic lines. You'll find that the dominance of that particular party, even though it'll have members of the party that come from different parts of the country, the majority, the abiding and controlling majority within the party will come from the region that the party leader comes from. This is unique. So it gives us a certain leaning that when one talks about a political process and a campaigning process such as the one that we've entered in Kenya, unfortunately it brings back old memories where our leaning towards political individuals and their political parties has often brought us, should we say, some unpleasant experiences. But those are the fundamental differences. The
Wonderful.
government of Kenya, the
Mm.
government of Kenya has a law by which political parties are funded. So political parties are supposed to actually be funded from the exchequer with public money, so they are accountable. So the process that you mentioned regarding accountability and returns, yes, they are actually measured and judged on those conditions, and they're very clear and very very well documented. So they too must have an accountability forum. But all those things are purely administrative. When it comes to the actual running of the party with a view to capturing seats, that's where the interesting bit comes in, and that's where now the formation that
Did I lose you, City? Actually, City has just dropped. Probably, I think the no, and I think the network. Can't hear him. But we are proceeding. Actually, just to take over from where he was. City, are you there?
yes, I am. Did I
I
go
lo
off somewhere?
Yeah, you went off somewhere. I lost the sound. We lost you. Go ahead. Mhm.
I can repeat what I said.
No, no. Actually,
Can
we
you,
got the better part of it. I mean, the last sentence is what is missing. Yeah.
and not a problem, then please continue.
Okay. So basically, I mean, the appreciate the light that you've shed. The other aspect that I think has also been very distinctive is how candidates are clear to run on the platform of the parties, right? So within the global world, in the US, for example, when you're running for a particular position, the state are the ones that clear your candidature, not the party. So you file your candidature with the state, all right? But the state clears you in terms of the financing, in terms of the credibility, in terms of all those other aspects, whether you're fit to run for the political office, whether you're going for the primary or you're going for the main election. So the accountability matrix is not with the party, it's with the candidate. That is one. Two, in terms of that is in terms of clearance, the state will clear you, and they look at all the detailed aspect of of your conformity. Now, one interesting bit that I think is very very important too is that when a candidate runs, for them to get some party endorsement for that matter during the primary, parties are not very keen on the candidatures, of the various participants until you garner some bare minimum of some percentage, especially after the primary. Once you are cleared, or if you won in the primary as a candidate, that's the time that now you become more, you know, visible to the party in terms of support, in terms of, identity. But at the primary level, the accountability is on the individual owners of the person running. And I think that has created some level of accountability, some level of seriousness, and some level of, quality, discharge of individual manifestos, because you must run on a very clear, mantra, that is resonates with the people that you want to represent. Go ahead, City.
Well, it does. You see, in terms of the principles by which political parties run their affairs, they run it. Well, let me put it this way: the understanding is that they would run it according to the dictates that are laid out in the within the realm of the registrar of political parties. It's very clear, because the person who registers political parties will have a requirement by which political parties A must be formed and B how they must be run. But again, just as they have this format, you will find that there is a deviation from what the register of political parties may state and the reality of what our politics is like. I am yet to see a political party that has been disbanded because it has gone against the dictates that for within which it was registered. But there are provisions for such a thing. Now, how does this play out when it comes to the understanding of the electoral process that then brings about new members of parliament, as new governors, new senators, and a new president and a deputy? Well, this is now where there is a portion within the registration of political parties where political parties are allowed to register coalitions. Now, when I say register coalitions, I mean precisely that. People who want to work together have to have a deed. And I mentioned the deed because you have to have a written contract that stipulates the nature of your understanding. In the event of your capturing power, how it is you plan to divide the spoils, who gets what, who gets which, one, who becomes the flag bearer for the election of the president, and who gets all the various positions that one sees and one gets within government. That's one. But it must have within those clauses a dissolution clause, an exit clause, a separation clause. It must exist so that in the event that you want to leave this coalition and join another, you have to go through a process which usually takes around 3 months, beginning with the notice that you want to quit and giving reasons. But all those reasons must, and I underline must be in line with the constitution that you provided and you deposited with the registrar of political parties. What am I saying? I am saying that the structures within which political parties ought to function within Kenya is actually fairly clearly laid out. And how it is people can associate and form coalitions is also very clearly laid out. But this is now where the big but comes in. In Kenya, you will find that very many of these things are disregarded. Like if you look at the way people, one, exit one coalition and then join another, usually it is done in the most rudimentary way. Somebody just sort of like ups and says, I'm now in this coalition, now formed, without the necessary process being followed. What I haven't seen is the registrar of political parties cracking the whip on these matters. They write and they talk and they say, but I never see them. Now, a conversation that we had with in a different forum with the registrar of political parties, one of the things that he pointed out, which I found was interesting, was in the event of there being a problem in the partnerships or the coalition that people have, it is those in the coalition who should take the initiative of informing the registrar of political parties. And it's only when the registrar has been informed that the registrar can then crack the whip and bring all these processes to order by calling people and going through whatever it is that they had laid down as the constitution. So when it comes to just writing up and having things documented as to how things should be done, we are fairly good at such things. We've got it all written down, but the heart of the matter is never in what we've written. It's in how we perceive our politics and how we practice it.
Wonderful. So, based on what you've just mentioned, City, so
Yes.
how do we resolve as a society? How do we make the whole system more functional in terms of regulation of the practices, should the honors be with the party functionaries or should it be this with the government? Because again, now the regulatory framework becomes more critical in terms of accountability. And I think we've seen a lot of independent commissions, that are supposed to, that have been tasked with a lot of, responsibilities, but they've become like, toothless bulldogs, they don't bite. I mean, look at even the Cohesion and Integration Commission, which is supposed to be, charged with the responsibility of bringing leadership into account in terms of their utterances. But we've seen a lot of mushrooming of incitement, deaths during campaign seasons, and nobody's held to account. Um, where are you seeing all this play in the ultimate, election, electioneering period when the whole whistle is blown, so that at least, I mean, when the campaigns start in earnest, are we going to have a country that is functional? Are we going to have a leadership that is functional? I mean, where are you seeing the whole matrix?
Well, the country is going to be functional. I mean, our politics is also functional. It's just that it has a way of disregarding the rules that have been laid down and that everybody has agreed on to follow. Let's get to the root of it. We have something called the understanding of a politics of patronage. Patronage plays a very, very big role in the appointment of peoples to positions of authority, in the selection of commissioners for the Electoral Commission, in the election of office bearers in government agencies. Somebody has to vouch for you. You go through a vetting process, but it's patronage. Now, people like to pay homage to patronage, meaning you are aware of the person who gave you the job or who made it possible. So there's always the understanding that you owe them. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The other reality that we face in our politics is we have a tendency of pointing fingers and blaming, but it's never blaming people who come from our communities. It's blaming other people. If, for instance, somebody is noted to be somebody who has misused public funds, if it is somebody from my community, the likelihood of me criticizing that person is very slim. However, if somebody from a different community that doesn't support the political leanings of the region I come from does something similar, I will shout from the rooftops and I will point fingers in every direction. Meaning, the honesty that comes with conversation and responsibility is something that we are bereft of. We haven't as yet come to terms to understand that right is right and wrong is wrong, whoever it is who is in that sphere. And it can't be that the person who comes from my neck of the woods is the one who is right and somebody who doesn't is wrong. Or that when somebody.
Again, I lost you, Siri. Um, hello? I think we'll go for a commercial break because we've lost Siri again. And oh, you're back? Yeah, I mean, I lost you again, Can you hear
Okay,
me?
at what point? Yeah, yes, I
No,
can hear you. Can you?
just towards the tail end, but I mean, we didn't miss much. Just towards the tail end of your completion of the sentence. Um,
Yes.
so in view of that, so we are just about to go for a commercial break, Mr. City. So, but
Okay.
as we plan to go for commercial break, just in a summarized manner for this section, that the first segment that we are done with, are we envisaging a society that is going to collapse in the whims of political hostility and manipulation? Because City, let's be candid about this. We've seen a lot of failed states. We are surrounded with a lot of failed states that have gone through the ravage of civil war, you know? And I think it's high time that the system learned that, the tranquility and the peace that we've always enjoyed is not obvious. We take a lot of things for granted at some level. If you look at even the level of our political practice, it has been bedeviled with a lot of dominance, the politics of dominance, where people have always felt that, some few individuals at the top determines the outcome of the process and also the process itself. So as we go to the break, I want us when we come back, Can we go in earnest into the detailed, foundation? How do we deal with this elephant in the house where, whatever the level you are, whatever position you hold, can the legal framework, can the laws begin to start functioning where, accountability is not only for the leaders, but even for the citizenry? Because we've all seen the citizens also contravene some of the principle of, practice as members of parties, but also as people who are electing our leaders, they don't really look at their votes as if the vote counts, despite the challenges that are there. Over to you, Shiziti, so that we do the wrap up for this segment.
Well, this is what my view is. We have good laws, we have a wonderful constitution, and what we are discussing and what is the heart of the matter is how our relationship with the law and the understanding that everybody is subservient to the law and that there's nobody above the law. Unfortunately, our practice is that those who are in authority, a good number of them, feel that the law and the dictates therein are a suggestion. They are not binding and it doesn't necessarily apply to them. Why do I say this? I say this when you look at the practice of how it is, people in authority who should set the example of abiding the law are the ones who seem to go out of their way to circumvent it, to find ways of avoiding it, to find ways of allowing the law to actually play the role that it should do in bringing about equalization of everyone under the law. So our practice, unfortunately, and the examples that have been set specifically by the political class, is something that one leaves a lot to be desired. But as for the stability, there is no country that considers itself to be beyond the movement and the ravages of people going against the rule of law, irrespective of how democratic they think they are. And the US has shown us that example. But if I am to come home, one of the abiding tenets that we have that has helped bring about stabilization is the relative freedom we enjoy, which is infinitely more than very many of the neighbors in East and Central Africa that I can speak of. The freedom of the press, the freedom of rights, strong, structured bodies that deal with human rights, the understanding of it. These are some of the things. But we also have a very strong religious group of people in this country, people who have a lot of faith, what we call people of faith. They help bring about the peace, because even in the hardest of times and the most difficult of circumstances, these are the individuals who will go beyond the pain and the problem and say, no, it is better for us to find a way out of this problem rather than going into a fight. One of the things that many Kenyans do not know is that the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and what we call his handshaking moves and the way he has gone about to work with people who were his opponents in politics, it is something that has been studied by scholars in very many renowned universities across the world, because somebody who opts for a handshake as opposed to a fight, somebody who finds ways of working with the enemies to try and bring a better good, it is unique and it's something that is still being studied to be able to be understood. But what has stood out over time is that, in my mind, the uniqueness of it is that particular gentleman, the same gentleman, Raila Odinga, his quest for the highest seat in the land ended with him losing 4 times. Was it 5? And every time he lost, the odd thing is that he seemed to grow in popularity. It's a conundrum of sorts, because when people normally lose, they move into oblivion and they are forgotten. But this is one of those cases where the person grew in terms of his potency, in terms of his influence with every loss. It is something that is worthy of a study. What am I saying? I'm saying there's a uniqueness to this particular nation that we have. But given that I myself am a person of faith, I would say that the great benefits that we enjoy is that for some strange reason, God loves this country. If God didn't, we ourselves would have gone to the dogs the same way some of our neighbors have. That is my view as we end this session.
Wonderful. And there you have it from Mr. City. This is Baobab Exchange, where the ideas take root and voices meet the world. We are looking at the understanding Kenya electoral process within the lens of the political parties. See you in the next segment.